Do you think that if you hold student loan debt right now, that you will ever have to make a payment during the Biden administration?
I suspect that sometime you will, but again, we are going to continue to assess every month, every few months, on where things stand, both looking, of course, at COVID, but also economic data and where we need to continue to help give the American people some breathing room.
A question on inflation. You were referring just a minute ago to the consequences of Russia's invasion of Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I know we've often heard the administration refer to Putin's price hike. I just got back actually last week. I was out in Michigan talking to a lot of voters who told me that they feel like inflation has predated the war. And I'm curious how the administration just squares this all together. I mean, many voters do feel that inflation, and correctly so, predates the war, and it can't all be blamed on Vladimir Putin.
We talked about inflation long before there was an invasion.
Pretty significant spikes in energy. Can you give us a sense of what you're expecting and what, if any, change this will make for what talks may or may not be going on with the Hill on what pieces may or may not be passed of a bill that may or may not have a name? I don't know.
Sounds very hypothetical and hopeful. Okay.
How high do you expect these numbers to be?
Sure.
Is there
No,
any impact on the strategy to pass what you believe to
Sure.
be inflation cooling measures in the medium term?
I understand your question. So because of the actions we've taken to address the Putin price hike, we are in a better place than we were last month. But we expect March CPI headline inflation to be extraordinarily elevated due to Putin's price hike. And we expect the year. So we expect this to all be reflected as we look at the data tomorrow. I will say that anytime there is heightened monthly data or inflation reporting or numbers, it is a reminder to us, to our allies on the Hill, and hopefully to many of the American people that we need to do more to reduce costs for the American people. We have, of course, legislation that could do exactly that, cut the cost of child care, of health care, of elder care. These all have enormous impacts on people's budgets, on when they're doing those calculations at their kitchen table, and certainly this data will be a reminder of the need to do something and take additional steps.
The president was masked indoors all day, but the White House tweeted a video showing her standing over the president without a mask on. Can you explain what happened there?
It was an emotional day. It was a historic day. And there were moments when she was not wearing a mask inside, including in a photo. But she was wearing it 99.9% of the time. I would know
the vice president and the masking. A couple of times you've cited emotional day, important role she was playing. You're not saying that those things are reasons to not follow CDC guidelines?
Absolutely not. And I appreciate your question on that. What I was conveying is that while she has worn a mask, as is protocol, and as is our expectation of everyone from the vice president, the president, all of us on down, if you have a close contact, that there was a photo, as Jackie said, and there are moments when she was human, and she didn't have a fat mask on in a photo.
Because of the photo, because it's an important day and the photo will live for decades, that we all understand. I mean, I'm wearing a mask today. I don't always wear a mask. Yeah. Is that the reason?
I think it was a decision made in the moment, but it doesn't mean that we don't all try to be model citizens. Great that she did test negative, in case those of you had not seen that, because she now is at that 5-day past the close contact.
On the president was photographed over the weekend in Washington, D.C. wearing a mask. I just wanted to, if you could go through like when he masks and when he doesn't. Would it appear that he did not have a close contact, but correct me if that's wrong?
He did not, but we all make decisions. Some people in here are wearing masks to wear masks to make them more comfortable, or because they chose to that day, or maybe
The president asked to go to Ukraine.
I'm not going to get into private conversations. What I will tell you is we're not currently planning a trip by the President of the United States.
And who decides if the president goes to Ukraine or not?
In what way?
He had said when he was in Poland that he expressed interest in going to Ukraine, but they wouldn't let me. So I'm wondering who.
I'm not going to get into private considerations internally on that front.
Over the weekend, that the administration agrees more needs to be done. The immigration system is broken. This was in response to a question about Democrats who don't want to lift it right now. You invited Republicans to work with the White House to get something done on immigration, but has the White House actually reached out to any Republicans to try to move this forward recently?
It has been a long-standing open invitation. Any Republican who wants to work with us on immigration reform, you're invited. Let's have a conversation. We have not seen an expression of that interest across the board.
So you're wanting Republicans to go to you. The White House is not reaching out then to any.
We have conversations with Democrats and Republicans all the time, Jackie, but I think it's clear what we're seeing from Republicans is an effort to politicize this and not fix what we all recognize as an outdated and broken.
Do you all consider India an example of a kind of failure to broaden the coalition to countries like India beyond the sort of core European countries? And if so, what, was this call used, or does the president see pressure to use a call like this to expand that global coalition even further so that Russia doesn't have the kind of lifelines that it needs to escape the sanctions?
Our objective, and part of the objective of a phone call like this, is to have a diplomatic conversation to build on this, right? Recognizing that countries go at different paces and taking steps to, go ahead, do it. Oh, sorry, I'll go to Caitlin, go ahead. Go ahead, sorry, I jumped around. I didn't mean to, go ahead. I don't have any more details beyond that.
You can't say if President Biden asked them to condemn the invasion?
They have condemned the recent horrific atrocities we saw in Busha, and certainly, as we see more, we expect them to do exactly that as well.
Saying that because of the president's work, then we will see in the core inflation, without gas and food, you'll see that core come down, and you'll see the results of his work in that inflation number.
I was making a prediction not of that, but of the fact that you're going to see, because of the increase in the price of oil, you're going to see an increase in the overarching headline number.
But the core inflation, you're saying that the president.
The core inflation, as you know, because you cover this very closely, does impact a range of factors that we're still working to address. But I was making a prediction about the headline component.